This is ContactTalkRadio.com. Consciousness in action. And you are taking action into your consciousness by tuning into Contact Talk Radio.
And on TuneIn.com, Ping.fm, and Upsnap Mobile.
Contact Talk Radio.
Welcome to Life Mastery Radio with Todd Allen and Jackie Bailey, the show that dives into the science of higher consciousness with inspiring topics such as abundance, intention, health, manifestation, love, and transformation. Join Todd, Jackie, and their guests of leading authors, speakers, coaches, and entrepreneurs weekly at 10 a.m. Pacific. Learn to live a peaceful life with intentional mastery. It's all right here with stories and messages to support your well-being and most evocative dreams. Now, here's your hosts, Todd and Jackie.
Hey, I'm going to say it again. It's another groovy day. And why is that? You think because that's the way I make it. When I get up in the morning, I decide it's going to be a groovy day before my feet hit the floor. And 9 times out of 10, every day I live, it's a groovy day. Now, things might change, things might happen, but I can always just think back and say, hey, I started out groovy. What do I need to do? What different thought do I need to have to turn this around? What challenge? And it always works, and it will work for you too. It's also a groovy day because today is the day I get to hang out with my really good friend, Jackie Bailey. Hi, Jackie.
Hello, hello.
And both Jackie and I bring you some really cool guests on the cutting edge of their own becoming, and they are all inspired to help you step off that edge to your own becoming. That's what the deal is. That's why Life Mastery exists. Jackie and I both think that if we can just plant some seeds in one person because of the show, we did our job today. And the best part, we get to have an absolute blast. And I know you're going to have a blast. Our guest is going to have a blast, and we're going to make a really cool show for you to share and tell other people about. So check it out. As always, there's my co-host with a big smile, earrings dangling, and she's standing on her feet.
I am on my feet, in my bare feet, actually. I wasn't going to say anything, but I don't mind.
That's a good way to tap into the earth energies. You're just letting it flow right up through you.
You know, do you ever feel like we are part of this amazing movement to help heal the earth a little bit?
Totally.
To make people feel more aware or gain more awareness about who they are and how to tap into, I don't know, the abundance around them from the earth and that kind of thing.
That's why we're here, Sunshine.
I know.
You're just figuring it out, or you don't know?
No, I'm not just figuring it out, but sometimes it's easy to forget because, you know, if you wake up on the wrong side of the bed or whatever, it's like, man, and then you forget that you're actually making inroads for yourself.
And then we do Life Mastery Radio, and the energy just jacks us up. That's why I really dig connecting with you and our really cool guests every Tuesday, and it just makes for, you know what I was thinking. So I've been studying the metaphysical aspects of the 10 commandments, and there is a commandment about recognizing the Sabbath, right? Mm-hmm. But it really doesn't matter what day it is. And so I had this thought. I said, gosh, Jackie and I are recognizing the Sabbath on the day that we do Life Mastery Radio because we're taking a break, we're having fun, and we're exploring others. We're really not working. You don't feel like you're working, do you?
It's on my schedule. So in that regard, it feels like, part of my job. But no, I guess it's not really work.
Oh, it's just a thought I had. You'll have to check that book out and you'll find out for sure.
Yeah,
too.
Interesting.
How are things at the Speak Feed Lead Project? You are leading children to discover their voices, find their heart and what's important to them. And you're getting amazing results. I just think it's the coolest thing in the world.
Tomorrow and Thursday, my students are going to be on the Holistic and Wellness Institute Summit, hosted by Susan Erickson, who was our guest a few weeks ago.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Yeah. And so her summit is 2 days, 2 half days. And I think there are 7 or 8 of my students that are going to be featured speakers on her summit.
And how much?
So I've been working with them for the last couple of weeks, getting them ready and helping them craft their messages in a powerful way. They've got 30 minutes to speak. And, one of them is only 11 years old. So she's like,
Wow.
oh my gosh, can I actually do this?
But they do it, right, Jackie? They do it.
They do it.
They have so much to say. They have such inspiring thoughts and ideas to just let loose. And can you imagine what it'd be like to be 11 years old and have an international stage, right? I mean, these people are from all over the planet and sharing your message. It's
well,
amazing.
As well as I do that when you get on stage and you've got even a proverbial microphone in front of your mouth and you start speaking, there's something that happens. Something turns on inside of you and you go, I feel at home. I'm sharing my voice. People are hearing me. They're listening to me. There's something magical that happens. And so I'm excited for some of these students have spoken at summits before, but a few of them, this is their first experience. I'm looking forward to watching them have that aha moment when they go,
It's interesting.
I got to do that more.
It's interesting that you called it home because Gail Larson is somebody that I studied with. She wrote a book called Transformational Speaking. And that's exactly what she says. It says that and teaches that you speak from home, that you just let it. And it's
that was my experience. The very first.
I can't even imagine learning how to do that at 11 years old.
Yeah. Well, I think
me till I was 45.
Well, I think it's more innate in us than we realize. And so when we get to do it younger, we don't have that fear built up in us that at 45 or whatever we go, I can't do that. I don't have anything to say. But I think if you can bring it out in them when they're young, then it's just natural.
Exactly. Very cool. Well, you can find out more if you have a youngster, a young human person that you think would benefit from Jackie Bailey's teaching. Just Google Jackie Bailey, go to the Speak Lead project. I mean, you can find her anywhere. Go to lifemasteryradio.net or .com, and her links are all right there, so you can check it out. I want to remind our listeners that today's show page is at that website, www.lifemasteryradio.net or .com, whichever one you prefer. And any links that we talk about on the show today with our amazing guest will be right there. Later on in the week, Jackie will create a blog post about this wonderful show we're getting ready to produce. And a little bit after that, it will be loaded up into our YouTube channel with a little bit of editing, some cool stuff added, and makes it really cool. So check it out. There must be 300 shows in our YouTube channel.
Gotta be. Oh, there's gotta be. At least.
At least. While you're on the website, sign up for the newsletter. Jackie creates a newsletter once a week. It highlights who's been on the show, who's coming on the show, and of course, the blog post about the show. The link to my book is there, 6 Keys to Life Mastery. Yay! You'll love that book. I loved writing it just for you. And you can leave me some feedback. Jackie has a book too, Self-Centered Leadership. And she has another one. She wrote a love letter. No, she wrote a Dear John letter.
Dear John letter to Lack in My Heart Notes, part of a compilation book.
It's pretty cool. So check it out.
And I'm having a book launch, another compilation book on September 20th is our launch.
That's your students, right? Or did you write?
No, this is for parents of students. So this is a compilation of people who serve families and kids. And I wrote a chapter on how to talk to your kids and the four ways that you can have a meaningful conversation with your children. So
very cool.
Yay.
All that can be found at www.lifemasteryradio.net. Go check it out. Tell a friend. Okay, Jackie, are we done sweeping the house, cleaning the house? Or
I think so.
We got it all in the group. We ready to talk to our guest?
I'm so excited to talk to our guest.
I know this is gonna be cool stuff. Okay, I forgot to ask her. Let's see how well I do it. Marilyn, our guest today is Marilyn Alauria. Alauria? No, you got to tell me. Alauria. Alauria. There we go. And Marilyn is a gifted psychic medium, teacher, and coach with an unmatched capacity to ignite deep soul level transformation for her clients around the world. As the creator of Next Level Living, Soul Finder Academy, and Membership for Your Soul, my goodness, what a busy lady. She has given us a clear action plan for developing our talents, following our purpose, fulfilling our dreams, and living in alignment with our souls. I want to know more. Marilyn teaches spirituality in a way that leads to a practical, meaningful, and joyous life. No unicorns, flying carpets. Oh, come on, man.
Dang,
Or
my granddaughter will
impossible
be so
routines
disappointed.
required. She simplifies the path to living a life of peace, ease, and alignment, making true fulfillment easy and achievable for her students. She is the author of a book called Guide. She might have a copy to hold up, maybe. Guides, mystical connections to soul guides and divine teachers. Marilyn, welcome to the show, my friend. You have a big smile on, and you got your book.
It's so much fun. I'm so excited to be here. And the reason why I say no unicorns or magic carpet rides is because I'm a very practical spiritual medium. I'm not a woo-woo person. And I kind of really, somebody had said, I'm actually the least woo-woo person you'll ever meet. So that's why that's in there.
That's funny you say that, because Jackie and I, when we first met, she thought, yeah, Todd guy's kind of a woo. He's kind of out there.
And you were.
you grounded him, Jackie. Thank goodness.
Well, I came from a little bit of a more of a religious kind of strict background, but it was also a lot like your background in that it was not a happy home, right? Mm-hmm. And so I had a very different perspective than Todd did. And so together, I think we have a really great connection to people because we can see two different perspectives together. So
yeah, bring all that together, which is great.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
So how are you today, my friend? You're in Northern California. It looks like a nice day.
It is. I'm excited. I love talking to new people and getting to know people. And just we talked for a few minutes ahead of time, and it was really like I felt like we were old friends.
Nice.
Having a cup of tea, like you said, Todd.
Yeah.
We probably are.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit of your background. This wasn't in your wheelhouse until you were
early 30s. Like I've always kind of knew that I had psychic ability, and I always had things happen to me, and things were happening since I was 3 years old, but I didn't know to term it as psychic ability. Like it was just, plus I was told it was my imagination. I was making things up. I was too sensitive. Right. I was dramatic, all that kind of stuff. Even on Easter Sunday.
Did you get ADD?
I didn't. I didn't, or maybe I don't think I did, even if the diagnosis was known back then, I wouldn't have had it. Yeah.
But it was a quick word to throw out there, especially in schools. Oh, your kid's ADD or ADHD.
And it's interesting because I think about those kids and other kids on the spectrum, and I see a lot of traits in them that I have myself. Loud noises, can't be in crowds, just certain things. So,
you and I are cut from the same rug.
Yeah, I'm not an expert in that field, but I just have friends so I just noticed that. But I just grew up in a traumatic childhood, like many of us can relate to. And I had experiences. And then when I got so I was playing with tarot, I was playing with things. And then when I got into my early 30s, I started hearing my name called. Nobody was there. And then I started seeing deceased people. The first people were the kids that did the killing in Columbine. They were at the end of my bed. And I was living in Manhattan, and then 9/11 happened, and the pilots were at the end of my bed. And I didn't know what was going on because I was being treated for PTSD, but I didn't have any psychoses. They knew that I didn't have any psychological disorders, like just little PTSD and stuff, which can be, not fun. And then this whole world opened up to me because I had to learn how to do it, and I had to understand it. And I went to different people and started studying, and everything just blew open. There's a whole story about it. I talk about it on my podcast, Who Can It Be Now? But really what happens is I came home to my soul through it all. So like my soul cracked open through these experiences. And
so why do you think these individuals were coming to you? What was their purpose, or what was your purpose in that?
I feel like with the kids from Columbine, when that happened, it was so, I don't watch the news, and I never have, but I was a little glued to the TV when that happened because it was so horrifying. And I relate to troubled teens because I was such a troubled teen. So I feel like they came to me because of that. And then the pilots, I feel like they came around because there was a sense of guilt. And I don't want to get too much into that conversation because I don't really want to hear people say like, no, blah, 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 how dare you say that? But ever since I was a little girl, I was very sensitive towards the murderers and the people that got murdered. Like I had an understanding and compassion for all people involved, and it was very sad to me. So I think they knew that, and I was like a lighthouse, and they just came to me. But I didn't, I didn't understand it
Right.
at the time. I thought I was making it up, and then it wasn't until I started getting locked in rooms and all this stuff happened that I was like, and I went to see a psychic, and she said the dead are trying to reach you, and that's when the whole thing opened up to me.
Now,
Yeah,
and they would speak to you.
They would speak to me. I would see them, hear them, feel what they wanted me to feel. And if you don't know how to control it, it could be overwhelming because you're like feeling all this emotion. Plus I'm scared out of my mind.
That's what I was going to ask next is it scary?
Yeah. I wasn't like, sure, come on in. I was like, get the F out. I don't really want you here. And I became very Brooklyn in some moments. I'd be like screaming at the top of my lungs from a very Brooklyn attitude, like, get out of here, because I didn't know how to control it and I had to learn.
But that spurred you to investigate it more, right? Why is this happening to me? And now, I mean, that has taken a different direction for the good.
Yes, I had no idea. Like I was an actress at the time. I was studying more to be an actress. I came from a television career, production managing, line producing, where I told you I won an Emmy. Like this was not in my wheelhouse. And I went to a medium and he told me, you're clairvoyant, all these things. He said, learn how to use your gifts. It'll move your life along.
Wow.
And at that time,
you had no idea. You had no.
I was already playing with tarot and things like that, but I didn't know like what could happen. And there wasn't the internet like it was. And if you went to Barnes and Noble, you'd see like one book on it. And I was studying a little bit beforehand because I was doing a lot of dream work. So I kind of knew I was clairvoyant. I was having precognitive dreams. But basically when I started studying, when you study, you give readings for free, and they were off the charts. And I don't say that from any ego perspective. I was skeptical and I was like, how the F is this happening?
How do I know this?
Right. And they were like, I'm like, your grandmother Rose is here, blah, 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 blah. And people are like, shocked. And so I dove in and I started studying, and I started working with a therapist also who knew how to work with mediums. And then I started channeling right away. And really what happened in the quick summary of it all is meeting my guides. I found why I was here, what I was meant to do while I was here. And so the suicidal thoughts and the depression really started going away because I had an understanding, and I don't like to use the word purpose because I think purpose shifts and changes, but I had a purpose. And that's how
a direction maybe, or faith in that you knew where you were headed or what you should be doing.
And why I was here, and why I also liked to not be here, because when I go out into the other realms, I'm like, wow, it's really fun out there. Like, why would I want to be on this earth plane?
Yeah.
Really painful here.
Yeah. And I imagine that a perspective like that allows you to then understand everything that's happened in the past more clearly. Is that correct?
That is true. It doesn't mean that there's not grief involved or emotional stuff that you work through, but I definitely have an understanding of everything. And to me, even now, more so is like everything is information. I look at everything as information. Like it's not happening to me, it's happening for me. I heard Jay-Z say this last night. It's happening for me, not to me. And I'm like, that's totally true.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a good perspective, good attitude to live by, just generally speaking, right? Because if we always live by this idea that we're a victim somehow, then we just keep victimizing ourselves. But if we realize that every experience we're having is an opportunity to grow in another way, then it changes everything for us.
Totally.
Right? Yeah.
And that's where our guides can help us understand those experiences so that
so,
we don't.
So let's talk about that a little bit, because that's what your book is about, and that we've kind of delved into that a little bit. But what is a guide? What is this?
The best way I could describe a guide, and I've been channeling for like 15 years, and it's not the channeling where my voice changes and my head spins around and, it's not, it's like,
oh, darn, I thought we were going to be entertained today.
I wanted to see a video.
Spitting up things in English accents. I wish I talked in an English accent. That would be so great.
They always seem to do that in horror movies, don't they?
Always in English. Sometimes I do see channelers do that, and I'm like, wow, mine don't do that. I definitely will say I don't have as much my speech becomes a little more calmer, like it's very calm. And I don't think I have as much a Brooklyn accent as times. It doesn't come out. So I do think they like wipe that away. They definitely don't curse, and I do. So that's another thing. So guides, to me, what I really feel like is they're direct reflectors of our soul. They are beings from, whether they've been on the earth plane or not. They could be plants, planets, trees, color, music. Everything's talked about in the book. There's really so many different types of guides.
I found fascinating. We'll talk a little bit more about that after your description of guides, but it could be anything. And I had never understood that concept before.
Yeah, and I'll just summarize this real quick so we could dive into that, because it's a very important thing for me to talk about that. But really what they're doing is they are here to help us live from our light and our soul. And we're also helping them. So the first time I ever bowed down to my guides, because I was so grateful, they bowed down to me and I was like, whoa, what's going on here? And they were like, you're helping us as much as we're helping you. So it's a real relationship. And that's what I teach, is how to get into a relationship with your guides, because it's free. You have free will. They say to go right and you go left, and everything goes awry when you go left. They're right there with you to explain why it happened, not to beat you up for it. It's true and unconditional love.
Wow.
So before we get into their description or what it can be, maybe boil it down for us a little bit on how easy it is to find them, connect with them, and listen to them. Maybe a little.
See them and hear them. I definitely teach in the book a technique of breathing with them. I create an umbilical line of energy through breath. But you just have an intention that you want to talk to a guide. We were talking to Jackie ahead of time, and I won't reveal her secret, but just the fact that feel it's her grandmother.
We've talked about it on the show before.
Oh, good. Okay. So just the fact that she feels that, to me, that means her grandmother is her guide. Because you would know, if you didn't have the soul's permission, you wouldn't feel what you feel, Jackie. You wouldn't have had that vivid dream. You wouldn't have, as soon as I said to Jackie, where is she standing? She knew exactly where she was, and she felt her. And that, to me, is your guide. So it is a lot easier than people make it. People mess it up.
So
with
it's
their
a
mind
knowing,
chatter.
or do I want to say a sensation? But it is a knowing, and it's pretty much a given. And yet people, they get scared and they run away and they don't really tap into it. Did I get that right?
It's a decision. How's that?
Well, I did like when you said that you may not discover your guides until you say, I want to know who my guides are, or I want to discover my guides, or I want a guide who can da 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 da. So you almost have to ask for it before it just naturally comes. Is that always the case, or is that a possibility?
So think about this. When you ask for it, you're actually taking the clouds off your eyes and saying, I believe. So they're already there. Now all of a sudden you've lifted the veil, because you're igniting it. You're saying, okay, I'm ready for my guide. I want my guide. Then the consciousness opens to that experience. So I believe they're always there. It's just whether we're choosing to engage with them or not.
Is there more than one?
For me, there is. I believe you have more than one, and then there's teachers as well. I remember reading a book by a medium, and he's like, if you have more than one guide, you're crazy. And I was like, you know what? I closed the book and threw it out. I was like, I don't need your belief systems, but if you believe you only have one, then that's fine. I'm not here to tell you you're wrong. I have more than one. So
you do call them teachers, and are angels the same as guides?
So teachers are different to me than guides. So guides are with me. They are usually with me for a period of time. They'll stay with me. Teachers come in when I need a specific type of expertise to dive into, and they will show up and help me with that expertise. Could be a month, could be 3 months, could be 6 months, and then they'll go away. They have a different energy than your guides, because your guides, there's a very family type of feeling. And when one guide is getting ready to leave, they don't leave right away. They take you. I'll feel them starting to go away, so that it's not jarring and they're not pulling their energy away. Whereas when the teacher comes in, you're like, it's like this. It's almost like an acquaintance relationship. It'll be strong, but it's like when they go away, I'm not worried about it. When they come in, I'm like, it's like, okay, hey, how you doing? Kind of like how we're all meeting here, but I would, if like you were going to talk to me about kids and speaking, you're an expert in that. And I'd be like, oh, soaking it up.
Yeah. Well, you even mentioned, I think in your book that maybe this was in regard to teachers, that they don't always have to be people that are deceased.
Yes.
That we can call on the energy of someone whom we identify as a teacher or a mentor that maybe we don't know, maybe we've never met, but we want to have some knowledge or a skill or talent that that person has, and we can somehow draw on the energy of that and still receive benefits. So can you talk about that a little bit?
Definitely. So we can call on the energy of like Oprah or Tony Robbins or, whoever you want to call on that's living or still living, Gary V, there's a lot of business people I pull in. And part of that is you already have permission to call in that energy because that energy lives inside of you. So if I'm attracted to something that Oprah is teaching or talking about, it's because it's already inside of me. So I can pull Oprah in and just have a conversation with her. And really all it is igniting inside of me the wisdom that already lives there. But I'm putting my attention on her wisdom, her knowledge, because she embodies it. So I think it's outside of me. It's almost like, hey, Oprah, what do you think? Should I go to Hawaii? Oh, I love Hawaii. We know Oprah loves Hawaii. She has a house in Hawaii. I love Hawaii. You just already have the tapped in wisdom. And you know what else it does is it helps you to get out of your own thoughts. Like, I'm making this up. It doesn't matter. Kind of puts your attention outside of you right away on a person who's got an expertise in an area that is living. Like you could just go to their video and you could get guided.
Does that help you to have access to a little bit better if you've got a picture of them or a video of them at the time you're asking for that energy?
Yeah, and it's a good question, Jackie. You kind of said it before. So like people who struggle, Todd said it, people who struggle to communicate with their guide, normally what I tell them, they're like, I don't see them. I don't know who my guide is. What's their name? I'm like, just pick one. Pick Archangel Michael. Pick Jesus. Pick Saint Germain. Pick whoever you feel. Pick the redwood tree. And just work with that for 3 weeks. Have a picture of it. Feel it. Go up and touch the redwood tree. And you're going to connect. And I also tell people to trust for 30 days. Just promise to trust for 30 days.
Yeah, try
that whatever you get. And people that do that, my students do it. They're like, oh my goodness, she's totally right. Like it just automatically kicks in.
Yeah.
It's just coming into my mind. This is like reliving it. But many, many years ago, I was introduced to a book called Running with the Giants. And I don't even think it was a book. I think it was just an audio cassette, Running with the Giants. Anyway, the whole shtick of it was that you picture yourself running around in a stadium and looking up in the audience and then choosing that person to come down and run with you. And then you could have that discussion. And I had so much fun with that. And what you're describing is what I was doing, really, is just calling in the energy of that particular person. And then I could have a discussion, ask a question, or just collect what they were thinking.
Yeah, think about it like right now, if you have a problem and there's somebody who you feel could help you with the solution, and just go for a walk with them. And before you know it, you do get their feelings of what they would say to you, right away.
And your advice is just try it, right?
Yeah, use your imagination.
Even if you think this is totally off the wall, just give it a shot and you'll see.
Yeah, I feel like for me, a lot that came down the pike where things started coming true, or I record my channel sessions because I don't remember them, and I have hundreds of them. And my guides they'll tell me, get this recorder, go to file 7, recording number 3, and just listen to it. And there'll be like 100 recordings on there, and I'll listen to it, and it's from a year ago, and I'm like, oh my God, that all came true. Everything. Now, did they implant that seed in me? Could be. Doesn't matter. But there are things like I took a yoga certification. I was moving. I was like all this stuff that they told me a year ago. So it really helped me to believe too.
Yeah.
So I would tell people, whether you keep a journal or you record it, keep a track record of it too.
Okay. So is that how you start to identify if you do have a guide and who they might be? Because I think in your book, you mentioned there might be really subtle signs like you feel like a hair just fell down the side of your face or something that could be a guide. So what are some other things that maybe we're just not, that we're missing because we're not aware that could be something we look for?
Well, one thing is, how many times have you two thought about something and it was just like a news flash that dropped into your head and you're like, that's perfect. Have you both had that?
Happens to me a lot.
Yeah.
That's your guides. That's clairaudience, or it could be claircognizance, depending on how it's coming in.
Especially with a problem or some kind of challenge, I find just get away from it. If I find myself, I'm a hobbyist, if you can't tell behind
I
me.
can.
Lots of things. I'm restoring an old truck. And I'll find myself just getting totally flustered and frustrated. And I know at that point, just walk away.
Yeah.
And then I'll be mowing the lawn and boom, the idea or something pops in and it's like, I'll try it.
Right. So that's like clairaudience or claircognizance, which is something you said beautifully, Todd. It's taking your attention off the problem. And if you have a guide, you can almost take your attention off the problem and just surrender to them, like put your attention on them. That makes space for the solution to drop in. Another way is, how many times have you seen repetitive symbols, butterflies over and over again, or numbers over and over again? That is them communicating to us through vision, which is clairvoyancy. And I teach about the symbolic language of the soul. The feeling, definitely you could get chills or feel a feather, like a piece of hair falling on your arm. They're actually touching you, tingling in your head. So there's so many different ways they can communicate with you. And even through smell. You talked about smell early on. That's a huge one.
Yeah.
How about animals? Because I
was just going there.
Yeah, recently I just feel like I'm seeing a lot of baby birds that are falling from trees. And I see mama birds trying really hard to take care of this baby on this ground where they're vulnerable to who knows what.
Right.
Even recently, I called somebody who I know that rescues squirrels that are injured. And I said, can you take a crow? Because there's this baby crow and it's not going to survive if, and she came and took it and rescued it. But then there's been also some eaglets who I've watched leave their nest for the first time and take their first flights. And so there's this recurring message about baby birds. And I'm not sure if that has something to do with our programs for kids. Am I helping them to fly? Am I mothering them somehow more than I thought? I'm not sure. So
Ding, ding,
really,
ding,
are
ding.
you not sure? Or did you just answer it?
Well, but at the same time, some days I'm like, I'm not getting anywhere with this. Is this really what I'm supposed to be doing? And I totally question myself. And then,
right. Is this really what I'm supposed to be doing? And then they show you baby birds who really need and it's normal to doubt, because we have every right to do that, and they'll keep, supporting us. But I would say, and you're already doing it, Jackie, you're doing it with an open mind. So they're building the trust inside of you. And I would venture to say there's actually even more here than you're seeing. And I think it goes back to what I said to you earlier about writing something or creating something or a curriculum. I don't know. Or even like you said, you wrote a chapter for parents about how to speak to their kids, because you're seeing the mothers struggle with trying to communicate and help the baby bird. There's a bigger message here, and I'm getting chills with this, for you to really dive in and bring this out into the forefront. And I would almost say too, and you could disagree with me, but this is a calling, a mission inside of you that's very deep. It's probably could feel almost daunting because it feels so big. Like, how do I get this done? But it's like so in your heart and soul.
Yeah. And that's the frustrating part of it, is that I have this big vision, but it's only me, and I can't seem to get help with carrying it out. And that's the frustrating part.
So this is what I would offer up to you, because I could feel it in you, and I could feel how big this is. And I could feel nature being like, no, this is what she's meant to do. It's going to be so amazing. This is where a guide can help you to say, okay, help me to get in touch with the people who could help me to bring this out. Help me to find who can I talk to? Where can I go? What can I say? What can I do? And then what I do is I ask people to leave it as an open-ended question. Don't try to answer it.
Yeah.
I teach a ... technique, and I believe it's in the book. Let it be an open-ended question, because and then remember I said everything's information.
Right.
You'd be so amazed, because I do feel like what you want to do is so big, but the universe wants to support you in it. So they're going to bring the right people with the right agenda, with the right feelings, not the people who want to make money from it or something, but the people who really want to do it for the right reasons.
And Marilyn, you got a lesson in that, because as you were describing that, I thought, whoa, she could share her story right here. And that was with your first house, right? You were totally not into it, but your guides were saying, no, this
it was a mess, you said.
Oh, it was horrible.
this is the deal. This is the deal. Keep moving forward. Keep moving forward. And eventually you ended up selling that house and making a lot of money on it.
Yep.
Well, and you had to ask sort of your father, who was not necessarily a huge part of your life, for help with that. That was hard as well. Yeah.
And that's the thing that I teach. Remember, I said this is why I'm not woo-woo, because I want people to feel like just because you're in touch with your guides doesn't mean life gets hunky-dory.
Right.
You know, I spent 2 months crying my eyes out. Like, what did you do to me? This is insane, you know, and my guides are like, trust us. And I'm like, yeah, there's mold. There's like tiles falling, windows are cracking. And I was in $150,000 worth of debt, you know, and then they got me out of that by trusting them. But it does not mean we don't have an emotional experience, because why would we be on the earth plane if we're not going to have that?
Right.
But they do.
And that's interesting that you said that, because they were telling you, trust us. And then the next instance is you were given curriculum or something along those lines that created an income for you so you could get out of debt. And you had no idea that was coming down the road, but yet you trusted and listened and chose.
Well, you know what it did, Todd? It did what you said before. It not only created an income, because now I have a book. Now it's my platform to teach about guides. They dropped in a curriculum of how people can communicate with their guides. But what happened is I got focused on the curriculum because I was so excited and so passionate. The solution was not necessarily making money from the product to get out of debt. It was another solution. But I would have never gotten the solution had I stayed in anxiety, fear, scarcity. This is it. Life is doomed. And then this became such a huge part of my life. And it is a huge part of my life to teach people, because I got tired of reading people. And I was like,
it takes your energy, doesn't it?
Was it draining?
It's draining, and people render themselves powerless. They come into it. They're like, should I get married? Should I have this baby? I'm pregnant. And I'm like, why am I making this big life decision for you? And I want people to make those decisions for themselves. It's okay to go to a reader and say, hey, I'm engaged to this guy, and I'm really, what do I need to know about my own heart and soul? Because it's not into it. Like so I was like, I want you to learn how to read for yourself. Because when you make powerful decisions based on your own wisdom, they stick, they grow you, and you become something so much bigger than you can even imagine. Like, I don't want to give that answer to you.
Could it be that people don't want the responsibility of
they don't want to find out
the answer if they've made the decision? It's like, no, I'd rather blame somebody else for the bad decision than myself, right?
Some people I would agree, but you know, a lot of people that came to me and I would say, no, you can't marry him. And they'd be like, oh, thank goodness. And they made the decision. Then they became clients that kept coming back, and it was the best decision for them. They just needed someone to give them
the validation.
Yeah. And that's okay to a degree, but I really want people to empower themselves. I do not want them getting into the hands of somebody who's going to render them powerless and not help them.
So tell us about an exercise you have that's maybe in your book that you help someone to start doing that for themselves. Is there anything?
One of the things that the biggest thing is, I would say somebody to pick a guide, just anybody they love, they feel resonant with. If they don't have the soul's permission of that particular guide, let's take a deceased one. You're going to know it. You're going to know it right away. And then pick a spot where they stand. Don't wait for them to tell you. Just pick a spot. Maybe they're to the right of you. Sometimes they can be inside of you. I'd rather them outside for now, because otherwise you can get confused. And then just breathe with them. Send them breath. Let them send you breath. Create an umbilical cord of breath between you and your guide. Walk with them and breathe with them. What that brings is your inner attention goes straight to them. You're all of a sudden creating a relationship, because it's all relationship. And before you know it, you're just feeling their guidance. You're feeling them by you. And then what you could do is you could close, like, don't do it while you're walking, close your eyes and say, okay, just show me something I need to know right now. Open your eyes, scan the space, pick one thing, and then ask yourself what you feel about it. There's so much information. People just stop. They think, I can't do it. And I'm here to tell you, everybody can do this.
Overwhelm.
Yeah.
Fascinating. You talk about, Jackie hit on it too. We're both animal lovers. But I find animals show, when I'm pondering a question or thinking about doing something, and I just kind of throw it out there, you know, I'll be doing the dishes or something and look up, and there's a deer looking at me in the window. right? Or a raccoon shows up crossing my path, or a possum, or even to the point where I think about it now, I don't pick animals. Like I have 2 dogs, 2 cats, and 4 chickens. I didn't really pick them. They picked
They
me
picked you.
because they showed up in my world. I fell in love with them, and I'm like, I'm taking you home. It's a good thing Jackie didn't call me when she found that baby crow, because I'd be all over that.
Yeah.
But animals seem to pick up our vibration and show up as teachers.
Animals can be guides too. They really can be. But let me ask you this, Todd. If an animal was your guide, any animal, what guide would you choose? What animal would you choose to be a guide?
I would say a fox.
Okay, great. So when the deer comes to you, your guide, the fox, is sending a deer. What does a deer feel like to you? What do you think about a deer? What does a deer mean to you?
Just free and, sentient being, very humble, very connected, and very much at peace.
Right. So whatever you're having an issue with at that moment, washing the dishes, asking a question, and you look up, your guide has sent you a deer. And what's the answer? Feeling at peace, feeling the sentient, feeling the gentleness of the deer, approaching it with gentleness.
So it can be that simple.
Yeah, that's the symbolic language of the soul, because as much as we can Google what these animals mean, and there's some great stuff out there, you're going to find a lot of different meanings, and you have to find the one that resonates with you. So I ask people to ask personal questions so that they can find their meaning, because their guides know that your life experience is different than my life experience. What a deer means to you is going to be different than what it means to me. What a butterfly means to me means something different to you, because I've had experiences related to them. And when we use our personal experience to answer the question with the symbol, we get a more powerful answer.
Marilyn, that's just too simple. Google's there for a reason, right? We gotta get down the rabbit hole on all this meaning.
And how many times you get somebody who goes on Google and they're like, they said I'm gonna die. Yeah, that deer showed up because I'm gonna die. And then they're like petrified. And I'm like, no, don't do that to yourself.
Yeah.
Oh, that is fascinating. Well, wait, we gotta corner Jackie, because she has a relationship with a tortoise.
Ooh,
and she is nuts right now. She's turning over her enclosure. Her hide completely upside down right now. She's making all kinds of noise. I don't know if you guys have heard her.
No.
She's going crazy right now. I don't know if she's trying to tell me something. She wants to go for a walk or something. I don't know.
Right. And what did we talk about? You getting this big mission out, and the tortoise is like, no, I'm not going to stay in my enclosure. I'm not going to stay hidden. I want to go for a walk. I want to get this stuff out there.
Well, she definitely teaches me, or at least she's an example of tenacity, but patience at the same time. So being patient, going slow, but also never giving up. I mean, describes her to a T.
Wow.
And so today she's like, she's on a mission to do something, but she's trying to get my attention, because usually I'm sitting and she can't see me. But now, because I'm standing, she can see me. So she is vying for my attention. She's like, I know you're there. Get me out here.
See, that's a perfectly good example, right, Marilyn, of how simple the answer could be.
Yeah.
Because Jackie answered it.
Yeah. And she's also talking about doing something major with her kids, and they're going to be speaking. And this is like something that needs to get out in the world, because it's so important.
Yeah.
And she's like, come on, let's do it. Let's do it. Patience and tenacity is great.
Yeah.
Fascinating.
Yeah. So who are angels then? If guides are there, so let me recap a second, because I think guides are there for either our whole life, or they're there for a good part of our life. Because you say they could be animals. Well, I had a dog who I feel like was a guide for me. And when she passed away, it was, I mean, I've lost a lot of dogs, but that one was particularly painful for me. And I feel like she was a part of my soul for a little while. So if guides are those who stay with you until they can't be with you any longer, and teachers are those who you call upon for very specific knowledge or help, then what are angels?
So here's one thing I'm going to say too. Guides can hold specific knowledge. So I have a love guide. I have a health guide. I have a marketing guide. I had a marketing guide for a long time. He was amazing. So guides can definitely hold specific stuff. teachers come in for a specific, like when I wanted to study mediumship more and there wasn't a lot out there, 3 mediums stepped in and just started teaching me about mediumship, speaking to deceased loved ones specifically. So, and then animals can definitely be guides. Angels can just be one of your guides. It could be Archangel Michael is there just going to be with, like I have Archangel Azrael as one of my guides because I know I'm meant to write a book about what happens when we leave the earth plane. So he is one of my guides. He stands in the circle. He's with me. So angels can be guides too. So it all falls under the umbrella for me of guides. Which can be confusing for people, but I don't think it's not confusing for me. So that's why I wrote the book.
Okay. Well, it might just be whatever term we decide to use is the right term, right? I mean, we have to trust that in ourselves too, right? If I choose to call this person a guide, or if I choose to call them Saint Michael the angel or whatever, is that just my choice to name them something? Or
well, let's think about it this way: like your grandmother's a guide, and then to the right of you could be like Archangel Gabriel, and that's also a guide. So to me, the guide is guiding you on your path in your soul's journey. So whether they're an angel, ascended master, an animal, a tree, energy from another planet, a star system, they're still a guide because their purpose is to guide you in your soul's journey.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a good question.
Fascinating. Totally fascinating. Looks like, Marilyn, looks like we have about 10 minutes left. And I just want to ask this one question. What do you feel called to share? I mean, there's so much more, and I hope you'll come back on the show because I think there's so much more to talk about. But what do you feel, what else do we need to know today?
For me, it's more about your listeners. It's about really giving people hope that the dreams in our heart are meant to be lived, and a little bit easier on us by communicating with our guides so that we can believe in ourselves, believe in those dreams, get the information and move forward. And that's the truth. That is my mission. It's like, I believe that I believe in God. I don't care what people believe in because there's no right or wrongs to me, but I believe that these dreams were put in my heart for a reason. And when I can work on those dreams and I take action steps towards them, but you also have to surrender to the end result, because what our guides have for us is so much greater than what we can imagine. So when I was moving up here, it's another story I tell. I never lived in an experience of the forest, right? You know, I was from Brooklyn to Manhattan to LA.
Wow. That's
I don't know what it's like to live. I didn't even ever saw a redwood tree, you know. Brooklyn really does only have one tree, but it's not, you know. So, and I kept knowing I needed a feeling. I needed to live somewhere where minutes become moments, you know, and it was just peaceful. And I surrendered to them and they brought me here. And I would have never been able to envision this because I had no experience of it. So that's what our guides can do for us. They can help us to bring us to the place we're really meant to be.
And overcome fear?
Yes, definitely. Did you say overcome fear?
Yeah, and to help us overcome fear.
Yes, definitely.
I learned a really cool acronym for God because I know a lot of people have a problem with that, right? And especially in today's world. So the acronym was goodness one desires.
I love that. I love that.
Yeah, and it definitely opens the door to a new bunch of new possibilities. So
yeah,
goodness one desires.
Cool. Well, Marilyn, could you talk a few minutes about the clairs?
Yes.
Because and what the relationship to those special talents are to guides? You know, is it the guides that teach us to do that, or is it something that we already have talent to do and then our guides guide us basically to how to use them properly?
So gone are the days that you were born into this and that's the only way you can have these gifts, because there is a lot of belief system that like it definitely runs in my family and stuff, but we are in a world where we can open up to any of these clairs at any moment in time. So our guides communicate with us through these clairs. So the clairvoyancy, clear seeing, clear hearing, clear cognizance, it's really whichever, you can open up to every single one of them at any time. But they will highlight one that is the strongest in you in order to start communicating with you. So if it's empathic, picking up people's energies and emotions, they're going to work on that one first, because that's the one that you know right off the bat, whether you know it or not. So they use it to communicate. It's like when people come to me and they want to talk to deceased loved ones, And they're studying with antiquated mediums out there. That's what I call them. And they're like, I'm like, you need to learn your clairs. They're like, no, they're telling me that's psychic and I can't. And I'm like, how do you see a dead person when they walk through the door? That's clairvoyancy. How do you hear what they're telling you? That's clairaudience. How do you feel that they had a heart attack? That's clairsentient and empathic ability. You know, that's the physical feeling. You need those clairs to communicate with your guides, to communicate with the universe, to communicate with deceased loved ones. Does that explain it, Jackie?
It does. So are there methods in your book that explains how we develop those skills a little bit more?
I think there are, because I use different things. I tend to write things and then go. And then I have a lot, sound, numbers, physical objects. So there are definitely some in here. And then I have Membership for Your Soul, which is a program where I deep dive and teach a lot of this.
That was going to be my next question is, do you have programs for people who want to know you better or work with you?
Yeah. So Membership for Your Soul is a great place to come in. I have teachers around the, US, Canada, everywhere, Europe, who teach their expertise because I'm not an expert in everything. And we'll teach you tarot and how to communicate with your guides and crystals. And I'm not into astrology at all. Actually, I don't even really relate to it, but I have somebody who taught astrology in there, because I bring everything in. So it's a great place and it's a great community of people, like-minded people. They practice together. They do reading circles. I keep things very safe because I will not allow ego or making people feel bad about themselves. So it's a really great program. And then Next Level Living is where you deep dive study with me, where I really teach on a whole other level this work. I think it's important for everybody to open up to this work and bring it into their everyday lives. It really shifts everything. It changed
and it's simple,
life.
Right? It's simple. And here's the other caveat that we should mention. Nobody's excluded, right? Everybody can do this.
And that's the thing that bothered me, because when I was starting to study, mediums would be introduced like, so-and-so is this and that. Not everybody can be him. And I'm like, well, we can all develop these gifts. You don't have to be born into them. You can have it now.
So how does someone connect with you? Is there a website?
Yeah. So my website is my name, MarilynAlauria.com. And I'm also on Facebook. I have a business page, or you can follow my personal page, or an Instagram. And YouTube, we're going to start. There is YouTube stuff there as well. My podcast is a great place to get to know me. Who Can It Be Now?
Who Can It Be Now? I love that name. How did you come up with that?
I was like struggling, and the song Who Can It Be Now came to me. And then when I listened to it, I was like, oh my goodness, that's what happened to me when the dead started showing up and people started showing up. And I was like, who can it be now? So that's the title of it.
Was that Men at Work that did that song?
Yes, Men at Work. I love it.
Who Can It Be Now? And is that weekly or daily? How often?
It is weekly. It is weekly, and I'm doing my 100th episode soon. So,
congratulations!
Thank you. There's meditations. It's a lot of information because I want to teach people. So you'll get a lot of information from it. Interviews. There's a lot of things on there.
Awesome.
Oh my goodness, ladies, we have 3 minutes left. We just brought up music, and there was a time, kind of a tumultuous time, when I was learning new things and changing, complete transformation of myself. And the messages that I was supposed to hear would come through the radio.
Yes. And when you wake up with a song in your head, go look up the lyrics.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's clairaudience.
It used to blow me away when that would happen. So there's something we didn't talk about, and I hope Marilyn will come back on the show. Maybe we can talk a little bit more about that, because both Jackie and I are moved by music. Jackie can't help but start dancing. If music's playing, she has to move.
I gotta move. But I was going to ask you. I was going to ask you about clairaudience, because you say it has to do with music, but is it like the rhythm of words in general? Because I'm a little bit of a wordsmith. And so as I'm helping my students to develop these speeches, I'm trying to find clever ways for them to say what they want to say. And I get this sort of inspiration about, that's the perfect word to use. Is that clairaudience, or is that something else maybe?
No, I feel like that's a part of clairaudience too, but I would say there's a little like clairsentience in that. There's like a little bit of sensing energy in that. Words can be a guide.
Yeah. So they always have been for me.
Yeah.
Oh, look, Jackie, she has a black cat.
She has a kitty. Yes.
Did you see?
I see the kitty cat behind you.
I have a kitty cat behind me. I have a black cat that passed that I love, but I do have 2 cats.
There's a couple of ears.
There's a black cat behind you.
No, that's my dog.
Oh, it's
Okay,
But
the doggy.
my
Okay.
cat Mystic was in my dream, I think last night or 2 nights ago, and I felt him in the
wow.
house. So thank you. I do have 2
Oh.
cats, 2 dogs. I'm a little bit of an
Wow.
animal lover
Okay.
too.
I saw 2 ears. I thought it was a cat, but
Thank
no,
you.
it's a dog.
thank you so much, Marilyn, for coming on the show and showing up as you. And I'm excited to have you back on the show. What do you think, Jackie?
Absolutely.
Well, is Jackie going to say no on the air? That wouldn't be nice.
Oh,
we don't want her back.
I wouldn't say no off the air either.
Just trying to. That's about all that we have time for
Thank
today.
you.
I hope you enjoyed the show. Please tell a friend about the show. Please check out Marilyn and her programs, and at least take a look at the book and try it. Try it. You'll like it. Her guides are right there behind you. Lastly, please, please, please make it a great day, because like we talked about today, it's about choice. Choose to connect with your guides. Bye-bye for now.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Thank you for tuning in to Life Mastery Radio. Join Todd Allen and Jackie Bailey and their guests of leading authors, speakers, coaches, and entrepreneurs weekly at 10 a.m. Pacific. Learn to live a peaceful life with intentional mastery through stories and messages to support your well-being and most evocative dreams. Visit their website, www.lifemasteryradio.com. Join their mailing list and be notified about upcoming guests. That's lifemasteryradio.com.